Let me ask you this: the fiscal attention has been almost as much in the West as it has been on the pandemic. You have the Trump administration talking every day about the economy. You have the Fed stepping in, to do its own thing. We've seen some signs and some movements of that with the RBI. You have now the Prime Minister talking about a 20 lakh crore package. The detail is still sort of awaited. It's going to come bit by bit every day. Are you reassured? Where do you stand vis-a-vis the economy?
See, let me tell you this, that almost a month back, my counterpart, Stefan Pierer at KTM, he said to me that amongst other things, they were assured by the government that they would be reimbursed 85% of the wages of their employees. I spoke with him just a couple of hours before today. And he told me that that has been done. And salaries of a average European employee is very, very high. And yet the government has come forward and done that. Stefan, in fact, let me know that Europe since Monday is now back to normal. He said KTM is 100% there as far as offices and factories are concerned. Dealerships are open, including in Spain and France, etc. It is only Italy which is lagging. And I don't want to take up more time on this, but the growth rates we are seeing for our products in Europe, US, China are very heartening right now. For example, in the US, as you mentioned, and I believe even in Japan, money has gone directly to the people, $1,000 a person or whatever it is, the numbers which one here. So you see these kind of things as an engineer, this economics, I call it a Seedha Sadha economics. I understand that you give the money either in the hand of the person or in the hand of the employer. But it is perhaps my ignorance of economics or matters concerning that what we hear over here, ये घूम फिर के stimulus जो है ना, which is supposed to arise from here, go there, convert into this and then come to you in that way at that point of time. Ye kab it will come on the ground, when will it actually have impact, how it will have impact. Frankly, it is not clear to me. I would say this is more a problem of my understanding and comprehension of these matters. But I cannot help but feel something that is more simple, specific and sustainable, if it had come directly, as I hear from the US or Austria or Japan, I think would have been more meaningful. I mean, another way to put it can be, in medical terms, it is said when you are not well, there are two parts to the illness. There is a chronic part to it, which will take time to heal. And there is an acute part to it. That acute may be a high fever, or you may have broken an arm or a leg. That has to be dealt with immediately. Now, you may ice it or you may take some medicine for it, but that has to be dealt with immediately. I think whatever we may do for the chronic issue, because definitely this is an issue that is going to last for months. People say even for 2 years or 3 years, at least for industries like aviation and hospitality and things like that. So that's fine. I mean, some things are chronic, they will take time. But what about the acute stuff? In terms of companies have zero revenue, they have losses, they have debts, people don't have jobs and they don't have salaries. This is the acute stuff that should be dealt with immediately. I don't think I have heard any announcement in this respect.
Has anything you've heard so far made you feel even a little better about the acute stuff?
See, when somebody says that we are going to put out 20 lakh crore, I would like to believe that at least some part of it would be real and would be effective. But I have not yet heard from even those who understand, not that I have had occasion to talk to too many people, but I have not heard anybody say, wow. Whereas when I spoke with Stefan Pierer, again, I give you this example because it's first-hand example. His exact words to me a month back was, Rajiv, we have had so much assistance from the Chancellor and from the government, we have nothing left to ask for. And Stefan is a very, very cutthroat businessman. To hear someone like him say, I have nothing left to ask of my government, I mean, that said a lot to me, I'm not hearing that here.
Now, for capitalism also, there's a morality test at play here when you see millions of migrant workers walking the highways. It's taken 50 days of constant reporting by some of us to get the government to pay attention. Even on this, we've seen flip-flops. Initially, they were told to stay where they are. Then they were told to leave. Then when they left, we said there's no social distancing. Then they were told to stay where they are. Now, finally, trains are being organized. Now, in the middle of all this, chambers of commerce want orders for workers to come back forcibly. one. And two, some states are talking about a dilution in labor law. Where do you come in on this?
I have been asked this question on the labor laws particularly. I have to say, first of all, that I have not looked at the details of it. So I don't want to, jump the gun and comment, but I will say this. I think we have mastered the art of swinging from one end of the pendulum to the other. What I mean is that when we put up assembly or CKD facilities in some other countries, as we went global, we saw even in large ASEAN markets, like in Indonesia, for example, it was possible to hire and fire people depending on how demand changed or the fortunes of your own business changed. But you had to do it in a humane way. There was some social security, satisfactory social security in one manner or the other that took care of the individual's needs, but did not become restrictive for the companies. We somehow failed to find this middle path. Either you have one extreme where there is no hire and fire, business has no elbow room at all, and this leads to, lack of competitiveness or poor productivity, etc., etc. So this is what we have all lived with for a long time. Now we seem to have swung. I don't say we have, because as I said, I'm not very conversant with what has been announced, but we seem to have gone to the other extreme, where I understand that practically everything to do with the normal, what can be called as human requirements of a workman in terms of his coming to work, his number of hours at work, his transport, his food, his breaks, his leaves. Virtually everything has been thrown out. If this is the case, I think this is ridiculous. I don't think anybody can build a world-class business with third-class policies like this. And I think it is only, very short-term oriented people who cannot see beyond their nose who are going to act in this fashion. You are not going to get anybody competent, anybody of integrity, anybody with commitment to come and make your company world-class. So, finally, what they say, what cannot be cured must be endured. I think there are some very erratic things about governments, and I don't mean only this government, it has been with the past governments also, which will never be cured for whatever are their compulsions. We have to endure it. And again, it would be a very long discussion, but at Bajaj Auto, we have managed to move away from this kind of a adversarial relationship with our people to a very much more partnership-like collaborative relationship. And that is why today at our plants, you can see that every man down to the last man who's working on the station, on the assembly line, is responsible for his work, its output, its quality, the maintenance of the equipment, the safety, the health, the hygiene. Self-management is the only way to work in a knowledge economy, in an economy where we need to improve every day, and be a little better today than we were yesterday. How are you going to get people out of their bed every morning, coming to work saying, I'm going to do a little better today than I did yesterday, if this is the kind of nonsense that's going to happen? So again, I don't know the details, but I was very dismayed to hear that.